How can I integrate this grief into my worldview without despair, right? The world needs more love. The world needs more grief support, more healing. We need to have conversations that are loving and kind and are not pointing fingers or calling people stupid or names. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Today's episode is one that is very much apropos for what is happening in the world. And I always think it's really interesting because I want to batch record my podcasts, and it does not happen for me. It does not happen. It's just the wildest thing. It's like, I can feel the difference. And I wonder if you can too, when you're pushing so hard to make something happen and is not working. I'll use the example of my son. He took a gap year and now trying to launch him into something else. And he's very, very scared to try something where he just might not like it, and that's okay. Like, I think these younger generation, this very younger generation is very scared to do it wrong, which I think is so fascinating. And I think it must go with, conscious parenting, a lot of love, a lot of it's okay. But I just kind of was like, I'm going to try something and see where it goes. Right. But they're very scared to launch into something that's wrong. And so I'm just like, just go try something. He's like, well, what if I don't like it? I said, then you don't have to finish it. Like, just as soon as you know that something's not for you, it's important not to complete the mistake. That's a really big lesson that I actually learned in food services. I was a sales rep in the food industry, and I was working for a company that I was a broker. So we represented a lot of different companies. And one of the companies had entered into a marketing plan with one of our distributors. And the plan was going great. We were growing. But unfortunately, the supplier had gone through some changes and needed to take a cut to the marketing plan, to the monies that they were spending with advertising and all the things for this distributor. And I said, the distributor is going to have a hard time with that. Like, we are growing with them. Our efforts are paying off. And then you're cutting budgets. Like, that's not when we cut budgets. And he said, this is the way that it goes, because right now this company, they had a lot of issues with supply chain and all, not able to source their products and stuff, and in a cheaper way. So their costs were increasing. So he's like, we have to do it. And I said, but we signed this contract at the beginning of the year. And he said, Sheetal, do not commit to making a mistake and seeing a mistake through just because you started it. A mistake is a mistake. Fix it as soon as you can. And I was like, I remember it's one of those moments where you stop. And I'm like, this has meaning for more than just this. This is not just sales of food. This is about life, right? Where do we commit to making a mistake and seeing it all the way through because we committed to making it the first time? I think we saw this a lot, in the olden times with marriage, right? We're like, no, I'm committed to committed to committed. And I'm like, okay, how's that working out for you? And you then show generations that you are meant to stay in a marriage because you committed to it and not because you're happy. And then we saw then generation after generation being shown the example of unhappy marriages, emotional detachment, abuse, neglect, because we had to stay in it. So when divorce started to become a thing in the 80s, I think a lot of people got scared because now you can't trap someone in a relationship just because you committed to committed to committed. Now people have a choice, they can get out of it. And then divorce was stigmatized huge in society because what is going to happen? Who is going to want to marry you? And it's such a lie. We have been told so many lies, and society is slow to change what is socially accepted, right? And all as socially accepted means is that the majority of the population is used to it. That's what it means, right? So when then the gay rights movement came out, when divorce came out, I remember when Murphy Brown on TV, for those of you who might be a little too young for that, you might want to look that up, but like she was, a divorced woman, and I think she was wanting to have a baby on her own, and even that was controversial. And then when Ellen came out on TV and Ellen came out as gay, that was controversial. But yet all of these things existed in society for lifetimes, long time ago, but at the fringes. And what we're seeing now coming into mainstream society is all of these fringe pieces that were once kind of taboo or nobody talked about it. And we were seeing that kind of groundbreaking, I'm going to say, lifestyle shifts and socially accepted shifts coming in. And now we're seeing all the dark shadows of society coming forward, right? Of normalizing violence, of normalizing racism, of normalizing marginalizing, humanity and people, and talking badly about a race, and that's okay. And it's actually becoming, protected. And, to be fair, it is protected under, if you're in the US, the First Amendment, which is the right to free speech. It's written into the Canadian Constitution as well. It's written into, all around the world, that you can say things that you're thinking about and you won't be persecuted for it. So there's almost like a protection around being honest about ideas, right? About talking about ideas. But when you start to then create a movement and you start to create ideologies, and people start to hook on to your bandwagon with these ideologies, and they actually persecute a part of society, now we are perpetuating division, and now we are perpetuating hate. And every time that happens, what happens you look back, as far as humanity goes, as far as our records go, as far as our, you can look back on storytelling, when there is division that goes so deep and so fundamental, we now start to have war. And I was having this debate with a girlfriend who's also very spiritual. She's also a spiritual leader. And even that term's like, wow, like a spiritual leader. But I mean, we are here to birth the Age of Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius is about humanity coming together to elevate consciousness, to come together to make sure that the lowest echelons of society still get their needs met, that are taken care of: mental health, homelessness, which is now called houselessness, addiction, like it's all coming back to, are we taking care of each other, which is Aquarius. And in order to birth the Age of Aquarius, which we're in the canal now, right? Each of these eras, so we're technically in the era of Pisces, and this is a little astrology coming in for you now. And it started during the birth of Christ. And the birth of Christ being around 7 BCE, that has been debated. So that is when the age of Pisces started. And the ages go backwards in the cycles. So we are now coming into the Age of Aquarius, and each age is about 250 years long. Okay, so 2,150 years long. Woo! Glad I caught that before this went to air. 2,100 years long. 2,100 years long. So an era, and when you think back to like the Earth is like 10 billion years old, 20 billion years old, something like that. Like humans have been around for some time, and it's we haven't kept written records. But when we go back to 2,150 years ago, very different time, and the Age of Pisces was about spirituality, but then coming into the opposite is Virgo, into the mundane, into doing something about it, the service, the acts of actually moving society forward. There was a lot about evolution that has come forward over the 2,100 years, if you think about that. And so we won't really be birthing the actual era of Aquarius until about 2143, 45, something like that. I have to go look at my notes, but it's in that 2140-ish time. So we're a ways away. We're about 120 some years away from that. But if you think about each era is 2150 years long, then the corridor surely is about 150 to 200 years long, because in that corridor the energy is going to shift, and we are in that corridor now. We are in that corridor now. So what's happening is we're moving out of this old age of, the spirituality and the leader and the individualism, looking at people, authorities, globalization, people telling us what to do. And we're now moving into this place of we are here for each other. We're not telling anyone, we're not really about authority. We're actually coming here to be together and be in this rising together. And so, in this rising together, of course, we are going to flush out the shadows of that era. And the shadows of that era is hyper individualism, people who are leading the charge, right? Looking to authorities, these toxic masculinity, telling everybody what to do, demonizing people in society with ideas, and creating division. Because the opposite of Aquarius is inclusion, it's coming together. It's ideas and humanity elevating consciousness. So we're coming together. And so right now what's being highlighted is massive division. And I will not be a party to it. Like, I will not be a party to it. I've been seeing it on social media. I've been seeing it on the news. I'm seeing even people, like, I was just posting things on my social media about coming together, about your assumptions. There's something very, very potent happened in the news, and everyone was jumping to conclusions about who did it and what was this about. Before anything was released to the media, before anything was released out into the world. And what we got was a lot of cognitive bias. And that scared me, because that cognitive bias really shows us who you are. Before the facts come out, before anything comes to light, we start to see these projections onto humanity. And I was praying. I was praying for humanity, not because of the person who passed, but in the way that they passed. And also that was a very, huge dichotomy in the world, because we're not all going to agree. The person I think is really important, or the person that really has my heart, isn't going to necessarily be the person that has your heart. I was recently at a retreat, and this person is doing a big retreat in April, and she's a leader amongst women, creating inclusive places for women to come together and heal. And she was so excited about this keynote that's coming in. And I knew I wouldn't know who the keynote was. I knew I wouldn't know. She was very excited. She's like, this is going to sell out the retreat. This is going to do all the things. And in my heart, I'm like, you sell out your retreat. Like, people come for you and your energy. But it was the keynote speaker. This person has got all of these followers, are so important. And then they talked about it. They shared who the keynote was. And I was like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who they are. I looked them up on Instagram, and they had like almost a million followers. And I was like, okay, I still don't know what they do. What is it? I think it's like these personalities of these two people, but they're big deals to her. And I think this is the point of this, is they were big deals to her. And she's feeling like this is going to really like sell this retreat, and this is going to be an amazing experience for the women. She is cultivating this experience based on who she feels is going to really give impact. And I want you to even think about this in your life. I didn't know who they were. I'm attracted to her because of her personality, because of her authenticity, because of the spaces she creates and the magnetic personality she is. And the people that she attracts into her circle are the people that I love to help. That's why I like her. I went there for her, not the keynote speaker. But sometimes we forget about our power and our essence, and we think these are things we're going to sell at our retreat. But it's not about this person. The point of this is that I didn't know who these people were. right? I don't know, like I don't say like maybe I'm a little bit in a bubble. I'm in a spiritual bubble, but the people that you would think are so notorious, like I want you to think into your world right now and think if you were to have an event. And I know, understand not everybody listening to this is going to be like, I don't do events. It's fine. This is a hypothetical because it's going to prove a point that if you were to have an event and you are going to say, most of you are going to be like, no one's going to come see me for my event, right? Some of you might, most of you are going to say are not going to have that. So if you were going to then have somebody come to the event that's going to be the showstopper, the game changer, the one that everyone's going to be, oh my God, I want to see her here in action. Who would you bring in? I want you to just think about that. Who would you bring in as the draw for your ideal client of who you want to help, who you want to be of service? What would be something fun to do? Maybe that is healing. Maybe that is of service. Maybe that's just being, I don't know, fun, doing something fun, whatever that is for you, right? And the person that comes to mind, two people came to mind for me right away. And one was Michelle Obama, and two was Oprah. Right. This is like these women have things that life that they have lived, things that they have seen, people they have met, wisdom to share that I would like. Oh my God, it would be amazing. I would pay big money to come see these women speak and hear what they have to say on a specific topic. But even then, it would have to be on a specific topic. If just Oprah was like, man, talking about stuff, I'm like, all right, I've watched the Oprah show, but there could be something super groundbreaking there. And that to me like says something about you, doesn't it? Like, okay, so why these women? I do think that I could be a draw as well. I have a lot of magical talents and a lot of things I could do. I have lots of exercises and things that show you how magic you are too. And I love that. But it's also, think about who you would pick. Now, think about how many people in the world actually know who that person is or would care. And I'm noticing in this moment, especially if you're from the US, that you would be super activated if you were on the other political spectrum that I chose Michelle Obama. I think she's a phenomenal, powerful, beautiful, spiritual woman. Like I just hold her in such high regard because she's always lived life so authentically with love and compassion and eloquence. And she's so diplomatic in the face of adversity. Like I just like I learn. I learn from her every time she speaks. And who is that for you? Yet that person, those people are not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We talked about that in previous podcasts, is that you're not here to be everything to everyone. And that's okay. We live in a society and we've built a society here in the West, anyways, where that's okay to not be for everybody. But now, when you get persecuted for your values, for your views, for the things that you say, and it's not harming anybody, now that is something to be fearful of. So everything that's happened in the media, I think there's this huge division of whether you thought he was a good person or not, whether you thought the act, everybody agreed that the act was heinous. Everybody agreed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look up what happened in the media. I think it was the week prior to my birthday. I think it was actually, no, I think it was this week. Oh my goodness. The week of September 15th. And there was a shooting of a very prominent character in the US, a prominent figure in the US. And I didn't know who he was. I really didn't. And the first time that I saw it, my son showed me the video of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is out on the internet forever. Like this, and people don't flinch anymore. Like this is what our society has come to, that we don't even flinch at this awfulness around us. And he represented some very, very major views, and whatever side of those views you are on, that's for you. That's not going to be discussed in this podcast. But what is going to be discussed is how we dealt with it. And grief comes through in many different ways. Many. There is much collective grief right now around the collective traumas that we have experienced as a society: war, natural disaster, political unrest, COVID. There are so many people still holding much trauma around COVID, right? And I mean, everything around it depends on what happened. Like, I was quarantined, my kids had to be pulled from school. Like, there was a lot of things that happened during COVID. And if you lost your job, if you were ostracized by your family, that left very deep wounds that are still in play today. But society has not gone back to heal that. We have just tried to patch over it, pave over it, and move forward. And now anything that comes up that makes us feel like we're ostracized, that we're not safe, that is going to trigger that echo. And it's going to come to the surface like a festering disease. The true disease of society is grief that is left unhealed and unwitnessed. Say that again. The true festering illness of society is grief that has not been witnessed and has not been healed. It will come to the surface. You cannot pave over it. It will come to the surface like an oil slick. I don't know if oil can. Can oil permeate anything? I just feel like, you try to put stuff on it and oil still comes to the surface. Whatever still comes, mold, I don't know, whatever that is. But it will not be, it must be healed. It must be looked at. It must be witnessed and supported, right? And we're feeling so much from each other because we have mirror neurons. We are wired for connection. We are wired to come into connection with each other, which means we're here to have relationships with each other. So even if there's someone around the world that's experiencing something and you see it and you feel akin to them, you will feel it in your heart. You will feel it in your body. And if you're a deep empath, you will feel it viscerally through your nervous system. That's why many empaths and intuitives don't watch the news, because it just feels like we are feeling, it's called vicarious trauma. We're feeling what they're feeling as well because we're so sensitive. I watch the news and I cry because I hold space for what humanity is moving through. I need to know what's happening. Also, because the astrology, I get to see how things are playing out, in the astrology. The astrology is predicting a massive divide. And why? Why would we have this massive divide? Because it's in the divide, then something has to shift. Think of it as like we're getting further and further and further apart from each other to the point where then we don't see each other anymore. And this is where war happens. And I was saying to my girlfriend, like, I do feel like we're on the path to war. And how do we avert that? The path to averting that is spirituality. It is connection. It is healing. It's love. It's compassion. It's seeing the other side as human. I don't see anyone who's come for me. I've had a lot of trolls come for me over the last 2 weeks because I've been very loud about being compassionate, about seeing people for who they are, about love and inclusivity. I know. And you think, who's coming for you for that? Oh my goodness. People who have the agenda of division are coming for me. And they just cannot hear what I have to say. I was like, we didn't know who perpetuated this horrible act. And yet everybody was already talking about who it could be, who it could be. And my heart was like, this person is hurting. Whoever did this, either they are mentally insane or they are in major grief about something. And what happened is when they did catch him, there was a lot of grief. What we're hearing, and we're always not too sure if we're hearing the right things when, when it's coming up through filtered media. But I'm hearing that he was going through a lot in his life and he felt betrayed. He felt hurt. He felt like he wasn't seen or heard. And that then gave him no other choice, like in his mind. Like, we have choices. We always have choices, right? And like, to kill somebody else is not a choice that most of us would make. Like, that scares me that becomes a choice that he thought he could do and he was going to do it. And in society we've had assassinations going back as far as written history, right? I mean, we've Julius Caesar, like, it just happens. People usurp power by doing it that way, by taking it. And we evolved to a different time, so I hoped, right? We've evolved to a time where we can talk about ideologies, and we've created democracies, and we've been able to vote, and people have a say. And now people are feeling like they don't have a say and they don't have this. And so how do we take back that essence of democracy and who we are? And it's through love. It's through spirituality. It's through healing grief. It has to be. Because if we don't see each other, we will continue to perpetuate this. We will continue to have compassion fatigue, which is emotional exhaustion for caring too much for too long, leading to detachment and burnout. And we're going to have empathetic distress, the pain we feel when we over identify with someone else's suffering, which can leave us paralyzed instead of moving to compassionate action. And I cannot let this happen. This is not going to happen on my watch, my friends. So if you're watching the news and you're having, that's why I label this when the news breaks your heart, healing with global grief or dealing with global grief. It's that when you see things like this happen in the news, I'm going to invite you to come back to your heart. And I know we saw a lot of people celebrating, and they were celebrating because there was a lot of fear around what this person represented around humanity and the ideologies. So that was actually, if you ever see someone laugh in an uncomfortable situation, or you see somebody deal with it in like inappropriate laughter, it's because there's actually something deep underneath it that they're not willing to see, or they've dealt with it that way in their lifetime, right? What we saw was something heinous. And whatever you believed about his positioning in that topic, it was really about the act itself, but also where is humanity going? Because what he represented to many people, especially on the marginalized side of society, was a lot of fear. It was a lot of fear, a lot of hate, and a lot of like the way things used to be, that does not actually benefit women of color, anyone who is on the of a different gender or identifies a different gender than male or female. And so those things exist in the world, whether you like it, whether you agree with it, they exist in the world, and it is growing. It is growing, and you can't snuff out truth. You cannot snuff out someone's identity. There's been a lot of trying. And what happens is society will then step up, humanity will step up, because we're meant to evolve, because everyone matters. Everyone's rights are here to stay. And we need to step up then for the privilege to help those who are marginalized or not privileged in this moment in time. So that's when we see affirmative action and DEI, diversity and equity, inclusivity, something like that. But it is about coming together as humans. And I stand for inclusivity. I stand for love. I stand for compassion. I'm here to help humanity rise from these ashes of division. And I'm going to become louder with this. This is the rise of the divine feminine, my friends. The divine feminine is about emotion, about love, about nurturing and compassion, intuition. We're coming up with these parts of humanity that have been silenced, that have been pushed down, that have been punished. We are coming up as women into this place of nurturing motherhood. Like I tell you, like I have thought so many times about creating a foundation or a movement of mothers that come together and want to protect like the children of Gaza. What is happening there, all these children being starved, no formulas, no medical aid. Like as a mother, like I'm like not on my watch. What can I do? And when we come together as a collective, we make things happen. I know I'm not the only one pulling in this direction. I know I'm not. We cannot let this happen, and we won't. So this is the movement, my friends. So if you're wondering what to do with this, I've got 4 tools to support healing through global grief. The first one is grounding and mindful containment. So limiting your exposure to triggering media, choosing intentional check-ins over constant scrolling, grounding through deep breathing, naming objects around you, journaling your emotions, keeping your nervous system regulated. Sometimes we just have to detach. I just had to shut off social media, go for a walk, watch the Golden Girls, play with my kids, and just have real world conversations. And I am reminded constantly that in my life, if I was just to detach from all of that stuff, I would not know any of that existed. And I'm so grateful and so thankful. And I am privileged in that way. There are people in the world that do not have that luxury, that are there where the shooting happened. They're there where lynchings are happening currently. They're there in the world where planes are dropping aid because no one is letting aid through. Like there is places in the world that are living right now that don't have the luxury to just turn it off because it is their life. And for the sake of my nervous system and I can just turn that off for a moment to reset, to come back to heart, to come back into who I am and what I came here to be, to then step back into my purpose and start to lead people back to heart, back to home, back to spirit, because it needs that too. Activists must be grounded and centered in love. Otherwise, they can lose themselves in the diversity that they are, the division that they are fighting against. So we don't want to lose ourselves in division. We don't want to lose ourselves in anger and hatred. Or fear. We want to come back to love and inclusivity. Number two is ritual and prayer. This is a very spiritual thing. And I saw this around the world, which I just loved, regardless of which side on this division you were on, is that people were praying, people were lighting candles, people were sending love, were trying to just be love. Ritual helps to move grief through the body and connects us to higher sources of comfort. The third is making meaning, a narrative therapy, which is used in psychology. So, what meaning can I make of this? How can I integrate this grief into my worldview without despair? Right? The world needs more love. The world needs more grief support, more healing. We need to have conversations that are loving and kind and are not pointing fingers or calling people stupid or names. Name calling is always such an interesting thing because it shows me that someone does not have the words or the ability to defend where they're at. So they start to call names, and name calling divides. So every time you see someone say stupid, idiot, they don't know what they're talking about, we are writing off the intelligence of the other side, which is actually a very negative thing to do in debate. Debate is about showing your side of the story and then also being listening for what they're saying so that you can integrate that. Like, are we listening with an open mind and a curious heart? Or are we listening with a closed mind and a closed heart? Because that's what's happening in a lot of these Facebook and social media conversations. There's no open heart, there's no open mind. And, I love having an open narrative and talking about what do you feel and how do you feel it. But if you're not open to that, then you will be, I'm just blocking you. Like, I'm not here to talk to anyone who's not willing to listen or to be a responsive, human, like to hear what's happening around you. If you're not going to be responsive, then you're just conditioning, going back into your conditioning and doubling down on your resistance. And I'm not here for that. I'm here for evolution. And then making a narrative, writing or speaking your story shifts the pain into form that can be understood and eventually transformed. So, writing it down, what are you hearing? What are you hearing from the other side? What's fearful for you? And where are we now bringing in more inclusivity? And then finally, energy clearing and intuitive connection. So good for healing this. Meditation, visualizing cord cutting practices, releasing the heaviness that doesn't belong to you, strengthening your intuition. It helps you discern where to act, where to donate, where to support, where to advocate, and where to rest. We must have rest too. And then the balance between empathy and boundaries, right? We must have boundaries, and we must have boundaries for empathy and sympathy. It's okay. Those two things are not the same. And caring for yourself allows you to stay present to the world without collapsing under its pain. So, doing things to support yourself and then bringing more joy back to your life. Again, resetting, where does life feel good for you? Sometimes we can feel guilty about feeling good in life, but I promise you, even in the slums of India, they're having weddings, babies are being born, people are dying, and they're honoring their passing. By tending to your own healing and knowing you are not alone in your grief, you support the collective field, as within, so without. Heal the division within you. Learn about why the other side is saying what they're saying. Why are people saying this? What is the root of this? And where can we then find some understanding and compassion for the other side so that we can come together and build a bridge of understanding together? Because when we come together, we are unstoppable. There's no force on this planet that's going to tell you what to do or lead you away from your heart if you know who you are and what you stand for. I will not be driven to division. I will not. So your sensitivity is the part that the world needs the most as long as it's nurtured and protected. Stay connected to your heart. Give yourself compassion and love, and do something that brings joy and laughter to your lips, to your face, to your body. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'm sending you so much love, wrapping you in white light. We are going to navigate this global shift together. This is just the beginning, my friends, but you are not alone. There is a movement of light into the world and love and compassion and empathy, and I am part of that. I am part of that movement, and so are you if you're listening to this. I will see you soon. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.